You can tell a true leader the moment they walk into the room, before they say a single word. There's something about their presence that commands attention. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. Their energy is centered, focused, deliberate. They're not trying to prove anything, and that's exactly why you want to listen. That's the foundation of leadership communication, mastering the energy behind your words. Because people don't just respond to what you say, they respond to what you radiate. When you speak, your energy either communicates certainty or insecurity. And the truth is, words are secondary. The tone, the pace, the conviction behind them, that's what people feel. Most people speak to be heard. Leaders speak to be felt. They transmit a state of certainty that cuts through doubt. That's why when someone like Nelson Mandela or Tony Robbins speaks, even a whisper carries more power than someone else's shout. They've mastered their internal world first. Their voice is just the echo of their mindset. If you want to command respect instantly, stop focusing on what to say and start mastering the state you're in when you say it. Before you open your mouth, your physiology, your breathing, your focus, they're already communicating. Are you grounded or frantic? Are you speaking from ego or intention? The energy you bring into a conversation defines how people will receive your message. And people subconsciously test your energy all the time. They look for congruence. Do your words and your presence align? Because if they don't, they won't trust you, even if they agree with you. Think about it. When a leader speaks calmly in the middle of chaos, everyone else steadies themselves. That's not about charisma, it's about control. Control over emotion, over body language, over state. Most people lose that control the moment they feel pressure. Their voice tightens, their sentences rush, their energy leaks uncertainty. But leaders do the opposite. They slow down, they breathe deeper. They create space with silence, and that silence speaks louder than any words could. The pause becomes a statement. The stillness becomes authority. This is psychological power, the ability to project confidence without aggression. It's rooted in emotional discipline. You don't dominate the room by overpowering others, you command it by mastering yourself. When your inner world is stable, others naturally synchronize to it. It's a principle of emotional contagion. The strongest nervous system sets the tone. That's why your energy must be intentional. Because every time you communicate, you're leading others toward either fear or certainty. You've probably seen someone try too hard to sound confident. Their energy is loud but not grounded. It's performative. People sense the gap between what's real and what's forced. True leadership communication is effortless because it's authentic. You're not acting confident, you're being certain. You don't need approval to speak with authority. Your conviction is your permission. Before you enter a room, ask yourself one question: what state am I bringing into the space? Because that state will speak long before you do. When your mind is aligned with purpose, when your emotions are steady, when your words come from service rather than ego, people feel that. They don't know why, but they listen differently, they lean in. They trust. And that's what it means to speak like a leader. When you listen to someone who truly commands a room, it's not just what they say that captivates you, it's how they say it. Their words land with precision. There's a rhythm, a deliberate weight behind each phrase. They're not in a hurry to be understood because they already know the value of what they're saying. That's the secret most people miss. Speaking like a leader isn't about volume or dominance. It's about precision. It's about stripping away everything unnecessary until what remains is pure impact. Most people speak the way they think, scattered, uncertain, reactive. They fill the silence with words because they're uncomfortable with stillness. But leaders understand that silence isn't a gap, it's a tool. It's the moment your message breathes. It's what allows your words to land. When you rush, you dilute your presence. When you pause, you amplify it. That's why some of the greatest communicators in history used fewer words, but every word carried the weight of intention. The problem is, we've been conditioned to equate talking with authority. We think if we say more, we'll sound smarter. If we fill the space, we'll sound confident. But the truth is the opposite. The more you talk, the less power each word holds. Leadership communication is about economy, saying just enough to create understanding and momentum, then stopping. Because respect doesn't come from endless explanation, it comes from clarity. Think of your words as currency. The more you spend, the less value each one carries. But when you speak sparingly, intentionally, every word becomes an investment. People start leaning in because they sense that what you're saying matters. You've probably noticed this when someone gives a short, clear answer in a meeting. Everyone else keeps talking in circles, and suddenly, the one person who was concise becomes the authority. Precision breeds respect. This isn't about rehearsed eloquence. It's about congruence. When your inner world is ordered, your speech naturally becomes disciplined. You don't feel the need to justify every thought or prove every point. You speak from a place of certainty rather than insecurity. And that's the subtle psychological shift that separates leaders from talkers. People don't follow noise, they follow coherence. You also have to understand that communication isn't just about delivering information. It's about managing attention. Attention is the new currency of influence. When you ramble, you lose it. When you focus your message, you hold it. Every phrase should move your listener toward a clear emotional or intellectual destination. That's what great communicators do. They guide attention like a sculptor shapes clay. They remove everything unnecessary until only the essence remains. And there's a deeper philosophy here. Precision in language reflects precision in thought. When you discipline your speech, you discipline your mind. You begin to see the world through a lens of clarity, not confusion. Your communication becomes an extension of your consciousness. Sharp, clean, directed. You stop speaking to fill the void and start speaking to create value. So before you speak, ask yourself, what's the outcome I want from this conversation? Not what do I want to say, but what do I want to create? Because leadership communication is always about creation. Creating understanding, creating belief, creating momentum. When your intention is clear, your language follows. The next time you find yourself about to speak, slow down, breathe, let silence work for you. Choose your words like you choose your actions, with purpose. Because when you speak with precision, you don't just communicate, you command. Every interaction you have, whether with one person or 1,000, is an exchange of emotion before it's an exchange of information. You might think people are listening to your words, but what they're really tuning into is your emotional frequency. That's why leadership isn't just about speaking clearly, it's about mastering the emotional tone of the room. The moment you walk in, you're either amplifying chaos or anchoring calm. You're either absorbing the energy of others or shaping it. True leaders do the latter. They set the emotional temperature instead of reacting to it. We all know people who are easily thrown off. One negative comment, one skeptical look, and their energy shifts. Their tone tightens, their presence fades. They start chasing approval instead of projecting certainty. But leaders understand something deeper. Emotions are contagious. The strongest nervous system wins. Whoever is most emotionally stable in a room ends up leading the room. It's not about titles or seniority. It's about state control. You can't command respect if your emotions command you. The moment you lose control of your state, you give away your influence. That's why the best communicators are masters of inner regulation. They don't let fear, ego, or frustration dictate their tone. They recognize that how they feel inside will be mirrored back to them through everyone they speak to. If they speak from tension, they create tension. If they speak from calm confidence, they create trust. Every audience, every team, every relationship mirrors the energy of its leader. So when you enter a conversation, you have to decide, who am I going to be emotionally right now? Not who am I pretending to be, but who am I choosing to be? Because emotion is a decision. Most people think emotions happen to them, but leaders know emotions are generated, not inherited. They choose their state the way a musician chooses a key. They understand that every tone they project, whether it's certainty, compassion, intensity, or calm, creates an atmosphere that people unconsciously respond to. When you learn to lead emotion, you unlock influence on a different level. You can walk into a chaotic meeting and, without saying much, shift the entire energy just through your composure. You can diffuse conflict not by arguing louder, but by staying grounded when everyone else is triggered. Because presence is power. The one who stays present when everyone else loses control becomes the natural leader. There's also a deeper truth here. Emotion is the language of the subconscious mind. People may forget what you said, but will never forget how you made them feel. When your emotional tone aligns with authenticity and strength, people feel safe in your presence. They open up, they listen, they trust. You can have all the logic in the world, but if your tone carries doubt or frustration, the message collapses. Emotional leadership isn't about manipulation, it's about integrity. It's about bringing congruence between what you feel, what you say, and what you do. That's what separates charismatic leaders from ordinary communicators. Charisma isn't about charm or theatrics, it's emotional coherence. It's when your words, body language, and intention are in complete harmony. That alignment creates gravity. People are drawn to it. They want to be around someone who makes them feel certain, inspired, and steady. So the next time you speak, don't just ask, what am I saying? Ask, what am I transmitting? Because your emotional tone speaks volumes before your words ever can. Lead the room through your state, not your sentences. When your presence carries calm certainty, people don't just hear you, they align with you. When you listen to someone who truly leads with their voice, you'll notice something subtle but powerful. They don't just talk about what to do, they speak to who you are. They reach past the surface of logic and connect directly with identity. That's the deepest level of influence. Because while facts might persuade the mind, identity moves the soul. And when you speak like a leader, your goal isn't just to inform, it's to awaken something in people. Most communication stays on the surface. It deals with data, task, opinions, the what and the how. But great leaders understand that lasting transformation happens when you speak to the why, to values, purpose, and belief. You don't just tell people what's right, you remind them who they are when they're at their best. That's what creates loyalty, inspiration, and respect. Because people don't follow instructions, they follow identity. They follow the voice that reflects their highest potential. When you speak to identity, you're not manipulating, you're aligning. You're helping others remember what's already inside them. Think about it. When someone tells you something that resonates deeply, it's not new information. It's recognition. You feel it because it connects with something you already knew, something that had been dormant. That's the power of leadership communication. It's not about transferring knowledge, it's about triggering memory. A memory of strength, of courage, of possibility. This is where authenticity becomes everything. You can't speak to identity if you're disconnected from your own. The moment your words come from ego, people feel the distance. But when you speak from purpose, from service, People feel the truth in your tone, and truth has a vibration you can't fake. When your intention is clean, when your energy is rooted in contribution, people trust you instinctively. They don't just hear your words, they feel your sincerity. Leadership language is transformative because it calls people upward. It challenges, but it also empowers. It doesn't shame, it elevates. It's the difference between saying, you need to do better, and saying, you're capable of more than this. One demands compliance, the other awakens self-respect. When you communicate from that place, when your message reinforces identity instead of attacking it, you unlock a higher form of respect because people never forget the person who reminded them of their greatness. And this isn't limited to speeches or big moments. It applies to every interaction. When you talk to your team, your family, your clients, every word you say either strengthens or weakens identity. Every conversation is an opportunity to plant belief or to drain it. So ask yourself before you speak, am I talking to the version of this person that's afraid or to the version that's unstoppable? Because whichever one you speak to is the one you'll activate. You can see why leaders who understand this principle can shift entire cultures. They don't rely on fear or hierarchy. They create vision. They connect what people do to who they are. And that's how respect becomes something deeper than obedience. It becomes resonance. When people see themselves in your words, when your message reminds them of their purpose, you stop being just a speaker. You become a mirror. And that's what speaking like a leader truly is, being a mirror that reflects strength back to others, even when they've forgotten it themselves. Because at the end of the day, people won't remember every line you said. They'll remember how you made them see themselves.